What is up everybody, it's Animac here for Anime Uproar, and in this video we will be talking about the top 10 overpowered quirks in Boku no Hero. In the past we made a video talking about the top 10 strongest quirks in terms of fighting, and for that video we had to consider things like how practical the quirk's power is in a fight, and how effectively the power of the quirk can be controlled. But for this video, we are throwing all of that out the window and we will be looking at the top 10 quirks in terms of their raw power and potential, regardless of whether they are suited for fighting or something completely different. The idea for this video was inspired by my good friend Nux Taku, who makes excellent analysis videos of overpowered characters, including All Might from Boku no Hero, so be sure to check him out, link in the description. And of course, if you enjoyed the MHA content on this channel and you want to see more, you can let me know by leaving a like. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and Missouri smash that notification bell. Shout out to Missouri. Just a heads up, this video will contain manga spoilers because some of these quirks have not even appeared in the anime yet. They are only in the manga, so proceed with caution. And now let's get it started. At number 10 we have Dark Shadow, a quirk used by class 1A student Tokoyami. As a result of his quirk, Tokoyami has a shadow-like entity inside of his body, and he can summon this entity to emerge from his body and perform various actions, including attacks, defending, and even helping Tokoyami move faster with the use of its dark limbs. Dark Shadow can be effective at both close range and long range, which is a huge advantage in battle. And during the day when there is lots of light, Dark Shadow is a solid quirk that is easy for Tokoyami to control. However, when there is an absence of light, such as at night and somewhere away from artificial lighting, the nature of Dark Shadow changes completely. Dark Shadow itself appears to be an entity separate from Tokoyami. It appears to have its own personality. And when it is exposed to total darkness, Dark Shadow has the potential to become an incredibly powerful and ruthless monster. During the Forest Training Camp arc, we learn a lot more about the true nature of this quirk. The combination of darkness and Tokoyami feeling strong emotions, such as regret that he didn't prevent his friend Shoji from being injured, result in Dark Shadow going berserk. In such cases, Tokoyami loses control of the quirk and Dark Shadow goes on a ruthless rampage. When it is in Berserk mode, Dark Shadow is so insanely powerful that it can take out dozens of massive trees with a single blow. And in its Berserk form, Dark Shadow is able to easily defeat the villain Moonfish within seconds, after both Bakugo and Todoroki struggled to defend against him in a 2-on-1 matchup. So in ideal conditions for Dark Shadow, near total darkness and Tokoyami feeling extremely emotional, Dark Shadow is easily one of the strongest and most overpowered quirks in Boku no Hero. The only reason that it doesn't rank even higher on this list is that it has such clear limitations. During the day, or in places where there is a lot of artificial lighting, Dark Shadow will not be nearly as strong. And Dark Shadow is also going to be weak against the types of quirks that produce light, such as fire-based quirks. At number 9 we have Manifest. Manifest is a quirk used by 3rd year UA student and member of the Big Three, Tamaki Amajiri, whose hero name is Sun Eater, and Manifest allows its user to transform his body in a very unique way. Namely, Tamaki can manifest on his body the properties of the things he eats. So for example, he can turn his fingers into tentacles after eating octopus. Along with that, Tamaki can manifest the properties of multiple different substances at the same time and combine them on his body. So for example, if he eats both octopus and crab, he can manifest a claw and tentacles on his hand at the same time, which creates a more complex combo weapon. And if that wasn't enough, if he consumes objects that are not necessarily food, such as a small piece of crystal, he can manifest hardened crystals on his body as well. The ability to manifest the properties of the things he consumes only lasts for as long as he has the objects in his system. So to use the medical term, basically until he poops them out. For this reason, Tamaki does his best to consume a variety of different useful foods every day so that he can always be ready in case he needs to use his quirk. Despite still being only a student, Tamaki was able to use his quirk to defeat multiple seasoned villains at the same time by himself. Because of its versatility and ability to combine multiple foods and other items into a powerful and complex weapon, we absolutely had to include Manifest on this list. At number 8, we have Creation. Used by Class 1A student Momo Yaoyoruzu, Creation enables its user to create inorganic objects from their body as long as the skin is exposed in that particular spot. Unlike Sun Eater's Quirk, Creation cannot manifest living organisms, but as long as she is familiar with the atomic makeup of an object, Momo can create it by breaking down the fat in her body on a molecular level, and then reshaping it into the object in question. The bigger the object she wants to produce, the more of her skin needs to be exposed, and body fat is required to produce the object, so Momo has to eat a lot in order to always have enough fat stored up to use her quirk quickly. As someone who loves to eat, this isn't a huge drawback for me, and despite its limitations, the truly incredible thing about Creation is that it can create everything from simple objects like a sword to complex technological gadgets like grenades and tracking devices. As long as she understands the atomic composition of the object, Momo can create it. So whether you need bricks of gold or a rocket launcher, Momo has you covered. Because of how versatile this quirk is and how many different things it can easily produce at will, Creation lands at number 8 on our list of the most overpowered quirks. At number 7, Compress. Used by League of Villains member Atsuhiro Sako, aka Mr. Compress, this quirk enables the user to shrink anything inside a specific circular area into a small marble. All the user has to do is touch something in order to instantly shrink it, and he can then use this on humans in order to trap them inside the marble and render them powerless without actually hurting them. In essence, this means that as long as the user of Compress can get close enough to his opponent, he can trap them and even kidnap them if he wishes to do that, no matter how strong the opponent's quirk might be. On top of that, if he wants to, Mr. Compress can use the quirk on only a part of someone's body instead of the whole body, which would effectively rip the opponent apart and kill them instantly. Mr. Compress can even use the quirk on himself, shrinking himself for a brief moment in order to avoid an enemy attack. The quirk can also be used on non-living things, so for example the user could dig a hole underground by shrinking sections of the earth, or even take down a building by shrinking parts of the structure until the rest collapses. Along with being able to compress things at will, Mr. Compress can also turn them back to normal whenever he wishes just by snapping his fingers. So for instance, he can shrink down a big rock into a small marble, then throw the marble at his opponent and snap his fingers. The marble will then turn into a huge rock as it hits the opponent, and he can do this with multiple marbles at the same time, potentially causing unprecedented destruction because of the many different uses of this quirk, from shrinking people without harming them to ripping them to shreds, and from using the quirk on yourself to avoid enemy attacks to using it to throw huge objects at your opponent without them even realizing what's happening before it's too late. Compress ranks at number 7 on our list. At number 6, Black Hole, a quirk used by Space Hero 13. Black Hole enables its user to generate small black holes that can suck in and disintegrate both matter and light on an atomic level, which means that this quirk can destroy virtually anything. Black Hole is so overpowered that it is considered highly dangerous. It can suck up and destroy anything in its path, including objects, human beings, and even pure energy such as light. Space Hero 13 uses the quirk primarily to get rid of hazardous debris during rescue missions. But we're not actually sure if there is a clear limit to this quirk's power if the user ever chose to use it to its full extent. If the quirk has no limits, then it could potentially suck up entire cities or worse if not kept under tight control. While this quirk only generates mini black holes, the power of actual black holes in space is enough to make us realize that this quirk could theoretically have the most devastating destructive potential in the entire series. However, this quirk is definitely not unstoppable, because we saw Kurogiri using his own quirk Warp Gate to turn Black Hole back on its own user during the USJ arc. For this reason, Black Hole is at number 6, while at number 5 we have Warp Gate, used by Kurogiri. Considered an extremely rare type of quirk even in the world of Boku no Hero because of its overpowered nature, Warp Gate allows its user to create portals out of the black fog that surrounds him and then teleport objects and people to another location, or bring objects and people from another location to his current one. On top of that, if he wishes, the user can also very quickly create a bunch of mini portals that he can then use in battle, either to stop people from fighting like he did with Shigaraki versus Toga and Dabi, or to use an opponent's power against them like he did in the battle with Space Hero 13. If anyone happens to become stuck inside Warp Gate when the gate closes, they will be ripped apart as a result. So this quirk can also be very deadly. Kurogiri uses the fog surrounding him to hide his own body, making him harder to take down, but his body is always in there somewhere. The only known limitation of Warp Gate is that its user must know the exact location in which the portals are going to open. For example, he can't simply decide to teleport into All Might's bedroom if he doesn't know where exactly All Might lives. We don't know the exact range of the quirk, but if the range is unlimited and Kurogiri can use it to teleport anywhere in the world as long as he knows the coordinates, then this is definitely an insanely overpowered quirk. However, even if he can only use it within a certain geographical area, such as an entire city or all of Japan, this would still be an OP quirk, and that is why it ranks at number 5 on our list. At number 4, we have Overhaul, a quirk used by the villain Chisaki, also known as Overhaul. This quirk allows its user to disintegrate anything he touches, as long as he touches it with at least a finger. He can kill someone instantly by simply disintegrating them, but the really crazy thing is that if he chooses to reassemble someone right after disintegrating them, Chisaki can actually bring them back to life. And he has done this before with people such as Rappa, who is one of his underlings. The user of this quirk can control how much of someone's body is actually disintegrated, and if he chooses not to kill someone but merely break down parts of their body, he can then reassemble those parts and all of the past injuries and illnesses within the body will have been cured. The quirk can also be used on inorganic matter such as walls and earth, allowing the user to disassemble and reassemble the battlefield around him in order to gain an advantage over the opponent. On top of all of that, if he disassembles parts of his own body at the same time as the parts of someone else's body, Chisaki can reassemble them in a way that essentially fuses the two people together, creating a fused and even more powerful version of himself. We see this ability on full display during Chisaki's epic showdown against Deku. Like Shigaraki, Chisaki appears incapable of simply turning his quirk off, so he wears special gloves that allow him to keep his power in check. Another drawback is that using his quirk appears to have physical consequences on Chisaki. It leads him to develop a rash and itching. But despite these minor drawbacks, Overhaul's ability to destroy and put back together everything around him, including inorganic objects, human bodies, and even his own body, make this one of the most overpowered quirks in the world of Boku no Hero, and that is why Overhaul lands at number 4 on our list. At number 3, we have One for All, a quirk used by All Might and of course Deku. One for All is a unique transferable quirk that was possessed by 7 other people in the past before being passed on from All Might to Deku, the 9th and current user. One for All is in fact a synthesis of 2 previously separate quirks. A quirk that stockpiles power and a quirk that allows quirks to be willingly transferred from one person to another. The stockpiling side of One for All gives its user superhuman strength, stamina, agility, speed, and reflexes. As we learned from All Might after he transfers One for All to Deku, once the quirk is transferred from one person to another, the one who transfers it can still make use of some leftover embers of the quirk, although they will eventually run out. The true workings of One for All remain a mystery in many ways, and we all have to remember the mysterious way in which Deku was able to break through Shinso's mind control quirk during the school tournament arc. It appears that the previous users of One for All were somehow able to awaken inside of Deku and bring him back to his senses. One for All also appears to become more powerful as it is passed on from one person to another, because the quirk stockpiles power, so the more people use it, the more power is stockpiled. So using this logic, even though the previous 7 users of One For All were not able to defeat the villain known as All For One, once All Might gets the power, he is able to get the better of All For One on 2 separate occasions. The immense power of One For All is clearly evident throughout the series. All Might is able to become the #1 pro hero because of the power of this quirk, and Deku, even as a student who is still learning to master One For All, is able to defeat much more experienced villains like Muscular and Gentle on his own because of this quirk. Deku is even able to defeat Chisaki, aka Overhaul, but not quite on his own. One For All has some drawbacks, such as the fact that until the quirk is mastered, it will cause serious damage to the user's body. But both All Might and Deku have proven that with rigorous training, the drawbacks of this quirk can be mitigated. After watching both All Might and Deku destroying powerful villains left and right, it can be tempting to think that One For All is the most overpowered quirk in Boku no Hero. However, there are actually 2 quirks that are even more OP than this one. At number 2, Rewind, a quirk used by Eri. A completely unique quirk, unlike anything that anyone has ever seen before. This quirk allows its user to rewind another person's body to a previous state. An individual who is touching Eri directly when the quirk activates will have their bodies return to a previous state. And actually, the reason that Deku manages to defeat Overhaul in the first place is because Eri was holding on to him and allowing him to use 100% of One For All's power. Because every time Deku used it and damaged his body, Eri's quirk would rewind his body to back before he was injured. Eri's quirk is so potent that Chisaki used her blood to create bullets that would make their target lose the ability to use their quirk, because their bodies would essentially be rewound to a time before their quirks had even manifested. On top of that, Eri's quirk can rewind a person's body to before they even existed, literally wiping them out of existence in a flash. Because Eri is still a child, she is unable to control her quirk, so we don't know its true potential. But Chisaki believes that once she masters her quirk, Eri could devolve the entire human race to their primal state. A quirk like this, with the ability to take away the quirks of others, heal people from all injuries instantly, or even erase them out of existence in an instant, is already a seriously overpowered quirk. But thinking about the possibility that after mastering her quirk, Eri could potentially dictate the evolution of the entire human race is the reason that Rewind makes it to number 2 on our list. Before we get to number 1, here are some honorable mentions. First, we have Muscular's Muscle Augmentation Quirk. This quirk gives its user the ability to enhance their physical strength to an incredible extent by amplifying their muscle fibers. This definitely looks like a really strong quirk, but we only see it briefly because Muscular is defeated by Deku, even though Deku is just an amateur student at the time, which is why this quirk didn't quite make our list. Then we have Todoroki's Half Cold, Half Hot. This is of course the ability to use both fire and ice-based moves at the same time. And it is definitely an OP quirk that ranked very high on our list of the top 10 strongest quirks in battle. However, it just missed out on this list because of the strong competition from the other quirks. And finally, we have Meteos Permeation. This quirk gives its user the ability to move their entire body or parts of their body through solid objects, including walls, the ground, the ceiling, and so on. While this quirk can be incredibly effective when mastered, Horikoshi goes out of his way to tell us that this quirk is extremely hard to use and torturous to master, to the point that the strength of this quirk depends more on Meteos' unflinching determination than on the OP nature of the quirk itself, and that is why it didn't quite make our list. And now, at number 1, the most overpowered quirk in Boku no Hero is All For One. Used by Shigaraki's master and the mastermind behind the League of Villains, also known as All For One, this quirk allows its user to steal the quirks of others. After stealing the quirks, the user can use them himself, including combining multiple quirks inside one person to create extremely effective offensive and defensive techniques. Just think about some of the strongest and most OP quirks out there, and then think about being able to steal those quirks and combine them all in one person. The user of All For One can combine multiple stolen quirks in order to create more powerful super quirks that would never have occurred naturally. And of course, even One for All is itself such a quirk, which was essentially created by All for One. In chapter 90, we even learned that All for One can forcibly activate the quirks of others, as he forcibly activates Kurogiri's quirk Warp Gate in order to evacuate Shigaraki and the others before they can be arrested. And if that wasn't OP enough, All for One can even transfer stolen quirks onto other people, meaning that he can essentially create his own army of villains with superpowered combo quirks. And of course, the Nomu are just one of All for One's many projects. I think that in terms of potential, All for One is the single most OP quirk in the world of Boku no Hero. Stealing the quirks of others, combining them to create more powerful super quirks that would never have occurred naturally, and also being able to create an army of superpowered fighters by giving them stolen quirks that they never could have gotten otherwise, is like the definition of OP. And for that reason, All for One is number 1 on our list of the most overpowered quirks. And that is it for this video, everybody. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like to let me know. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and Missouri smash that notification bell. If you want to give us ideas for future videos, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at AnimeUproar and let us know. And of course, feel free to let me know down in the comments if you agreed with this list or if you would change some things around. I'd love to hear from you. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.